everyone. Welcome back to Build. I'm your host, Brittany Jones-Cooper. In My Brother's Keeper, Gloria Reuben, who currently stars in the show Mr. Robot, bears her soul as she reveals the intimate details of her life and honors her brothers, David and Dennis, their lives, their deaths, and the hope that awaits. Please help me welcome Gloria Reuben.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. I grew up with brothers, and so I understand just how close that relationship could be. And I just really want to thank you for being so honest and vulnerable in this book. I think the journey to healing is different for everybody, and it's just nice to when people share it.
Yes.
So why did you want to write this story now?
I have to say that, first of all, thank you for saying all of that. Indeed, the journey of healing is different for everyone. And for me, the writing of this book came about very organically. I write in my journal a lot. I always have since I was a teenager. It just kind of helps me process things or just get things out of my head. And that became even more of a practice for me after my little brother David died many years ago. And journaling really helped, carry me through that process, as well as, when I moved from Toronto, which is where I was born and raised, where we were born and raised, and to Los Angeles. That was a big change. And so the writing continued as I moved and grew in age and in experience, etc. And then when my brother Denis died suddenly as well, in 2010, I can't believe it's been that long already, the writing continued. And about a few years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, maybe around that time, I started looking back on some of the things that I had been writing, which I would do occasionally anyway, just kind of, look through and see where I've grown and see kind of where things were stagnant in terms of my own life. And as I was reading through, I just realized that there were entries that felt like, the beginnings of an essay, right? So I took those and kind of tucked them aside and revisited them and expanded on them. And then it just kept on happening and growing. And then I have this book.
I'm really fascinated by that. I've also kept a journal my entire life. There's an incredible amount of processing you can do when you go back.
Yes.
So when you did go back to those times, I guess probably after you lost your brothers,
yes.
What was it like reading those passages and kind of reconnecting to who you were at that time?
Right. It was really extremely difficult and painful, yet cathartic at the same time. Do you know? A lot of it, I'm such a visual person and a musical person as well, right? So I would, be snapped back into time when I would hear a song from them or when I would read something and the visual would come up and then I'm back to, 25 years ago or what have you. But the thing that kind of jumped out at me the most when I was reading through was that I started thinking a lot about my familial life, especially in my formative years. And so I decided to kind of connect the essays with this very personal narrative about my home life and about how my home life affected, very much so as it does with all of us, who I am now and how it has helped or hindered me with the healing process and in life in general. One of the most fascinating things that I found is that the more that I was willing to dive deep, the more that I was willing to walk through some of that pain and some of those memories, the more stuff started opening up, the more I started remembering things. I don't remember a lot of my first 12 years of life. And the more that I revisited, yes, exactly. So the layers have been, many things have been revealed in a short amount of time. So it's been another different process of investigation, if you will, and unraveling and healing. And there were a number of essays that I had written for my book, for my brothers, that will be in my next book, in my full autobiography. Oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing.
Hey, girl, just let it out.
It's going to take me like 10 years to write that because it's going to be too much. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's why I started with a thank you, because I think when you are talking about loss, it's something that people want to try to shove away. But I think it's so important to just feel it and talk about it. And you talk about your family, and I think the dynamics every family dynamic is different, but you're the fifth of six. but
Yeah.
you and your younger brother were like considerably younger, right,
Yes.
than your older sibling. So I think that creates a different kind of closeness.
Yes.
So you and David had that kind of special bond.
We totally did.
Yeah.
We were, if you will, kind of the unexpected ones. And we didn't
Oopsies.
know that. Yeah. But he was the most special unexpected.
Yeah.
So, but I think that it's very true. I mean, especially in my home where, we didn't talk about anything, and that's the worst thing is to not talk about anything because then it gets stuffed inside and it comes out in weird ways, Eventually this stuff will come out. So, to be able to talk about it and to be able to share, it's okay. Everybody experiences loss. Everybody, it's part of life, and we all know that. But there's no reason to hide or to feel ashamed about the feelings or to try to run away from them. I've been running way too long, and it's okay to just stay and sit. I remember I read this thing once where this woman received a gift from a friend. This woman had a puppy. And so the friend gave her a little necklace with a little doggy bone on it. And in the little doggy bone was written, sit, stay, heal. Heal. So there it is. And good night.
You mentioned families and how we push things away, and I think especially Black families or families of color when it comes to the mental health conversation. I think that's something that's really prevalent in a lot of families of color.
Yeah.
Just past traumas, and people don't deal with it. And I know that's something your brother struggled with. And so after his death, how did that change your approach to conversations around mental illness?
Well, it didn't really happen. The conversation didn't even really happen until I literally started writing this book, until I wanted to kind of acknowledge the issues and the secrecy, etc. When it comes to, again, I'm Canadian by birth, and we were mixed race, and so there were issues for sure, in a number of different ways because of the mixed race family, and especially in that era, having moved to the United States and seeing and hearing and experiencing, like you say, this kind of, I don't know what it is. It's like this unacknowledgement, this if that's a word, not wanting to acknowledge the truth, and the denial, the stigma, the shame. 3 killers. Well, 4: secrecy, denial, stigma, and shame. And from my experience, being in the U.S. and when I have, my experience with the African American community, those 4 things are prevalent in such a hurtful and destructive way, and not just about mental health or mental health illness. I can jump back 25 years with Jeannie Boulay on ER. Professional, married, woman of color who contracts HIV from her husband. And still, even at that and beyond that time, still in certain demographics in this country, around the world, yes, but right here at home, the secrecy, the denial, the shame, the stigma. I mean, we have got to just accept the truth and talk about it, and then we can move on and we can find solutions, because the solutions are out there. The help is out there. Know your status, get tested, get medication if you need. Mental health issues, there's help. We have help now more than ever before. Ever before.
I mean, you mentioned that in your conversation around your brother, who did commit suicide, and you said that 2 million people can call the suicide hotline every year, but those are just the people we know about.
Right.
Yeah.
2 million people.
Yeah.
Who pick up the phone and make that call.
And it should be more.
And how many are suffering in silence?
Absolutely.
But the help is there.
Yes, it is.
And the hope is there.
Yeah. Is that something you're passionate about talking about more?
Yeah.
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 Have you done more work just to sort of educate yourself or understand the resources available for people who are struggling?
Well, I haven't. I think that what I have to offer is I don't have that kind of research at hand. I can Google it. It's readily available. But I think that just starting the conversation, making it a personal conversation really touches home, because this is not a detached thing. It's an extremely personal thing. And I think that that's what people will connect to, is the personal story. Because, I think there's a lot of disconnect in today's world. And a lot of us are yearning for the real thing. So I think I hope that that's what I have to offer. And then people will, if they so choose, if they want to get help, if they need help, they will take the next step to find the help that they need. This is life or death, obviously, suicide, HIV, a number of things. But those are the two societal, international issues that are very close to home for me.
You also read a lot about your brother Denis, and you guys seemed to have had a particularly close relationship. Just what was your dynamic like with him? Because it seemed just really supportive and loving. The photos in the book, you're always hugging, and just what did you love so much about Denis?
He was the best hugger ever. Seriously.
I can tell by the photos how pure,
how much we loved each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was 14 years my senior, so when I was a little girl, by the time I was 5, he was out of the house, of course, he's an adult. So I didn't get to know Denis really until I was in my until I was just past 19, almost 20, when I lived with him in his house in Toronto. So, and David passed when I was 24. So those 3.5 years living with Denis, being in his loving embrace in more ways than one, really set the path for me for the rest of my life. He changed everything. The things, the dysfunction, the difficulties and challenges of my formative years were almost cleansed by his presence. He was like the light, and he really had my back through everything. Denis was, and anyone who knew Denis, even if they said hello to him on the street, no denying it. Yeah. So he was a real gift and continues to be a real gift. Yeah.
And so you wrote this book. Clearly, like you said, you had the journals and just sort of processing for yourself. But what do you hope readers can take away about, I guess, maybe nurturing and fostering these relationships with your siblings?
Indeed. Nurturing and fostering relationships with the sibling, with a friend, the ones that, it's almost like when we listen to our bodies, we know when we're in the presence of someone who elevates us. We can just tell, our eyes are brighter, our thinking is lighter, our heart is more open. So whether that be with a sibling or a parent or a friend or a pet, I hope that this book will be a beautiful kind of reminder to do that, to connect, and also hopefully the possibility of just allowing, just kind of not permission, but just kind of it's okay, like it's okay to feel and to express those feelings and to heal and to incorporate what has happened into now and into how you want to shape the future. Do you know? It's kind of a beautiful thing.
And I know you're working on an album.
Yes.
Called For All We Know.
Yes, the album is finished.
And that's, okay, so, but it's coming out next year.
Yes.
But in the meantime, you're doing some shows, and I read that you're going to incorporate some of the book into your show. So what will that look like for people who want to come out and see it?
Yes, well, this will be, I'm actually doing one in Southampton on December 14th of this year. But in New York City, next year on March 31st at Joe's Pub, right? All right, so I'm a musician as well. I sing and play at the piano. So I have this idea of incorporating reading excerpts from the book with the songs that correlate with the emotion of that particular essay. Because when I was writing the book, after the essays, I would just naturally, these songs would come to mind, and I would quote a few lines of the songs, but we weren't able to publish it because of copyright issues or what have you. So I have the list of songs that correlate with the specific essays. And, it's not all sad songs. I know, it's like, don't worry, you're not, like, it's okay.
Just walk out there just
Yeah, seriously, yeah, I know. I might, but no, but there definitely, as I think about it, and it's funny because inspiration comes at any moment Do you know, when I pick my head up from my phone, and then I just kind of literally inspiration will come about a certain song, or I always leave music on in my home so that when I walk home, or rather when I walk into my apartment, there's always music on. Or I walk into my apartment and there'll be a song and it's just the right, like, oh, I didn't think about, oh yeah, that's going to be great for. So it's going to be a really beautiful combination. There's nothing more pure, I think, than music, singing and music, and the and reading from. So it's going to be really special.
I like how you're like, I'm also a singer. I was like, I know.
Okay,
you're
so I know.
Like, it's like, you don't have to tell me that. You're a very good singer.
Well, thank you.
You sing backup for Tina Turner at one
did
point,
that.
right? That's insane.
It's insane.
Yeah.
I know.
She's Tina Turner.
I know.
I know.
It's crazy.
Have you heard anything about the new Tina Turner musical? Are you going to go check it out?
I don't know. Yeah, I should probably check it out. I don't know. What did I say? I'm sure I'm going to see it. Yeah. What did I say to someone the other day? I said, oh, why would I see it? I lived it. Oh, snap.
I think that's when we just drop.
Totally. Yeah, right? Yeah.
Set that
I'm just
down,
kidding.
walk
I'm
away.
totally going to see
No,
it.
you're not. You don't have to be joking. You did. You did live it. Like a handful of people can say that. So
I know, it's great.
I think that's your card to play.
I think so.
On top of all of that, you're also on the final season of Mr. Robot. And before we talk about it, we do have a clip to show really quick.
Okay.
Let's throw to that.
Okay.
Oh, shit. Krista.
Give me a second.
Sure. I've tried calling you.
Elliot, I thought I made myself clear.
Yeah, I got your letter. I just wanted to talk to you.
You know that can't happen. I explained that in the letter as politely as I could.
I don't understand. I'm doing better. I'm finally talking to Mr. Robot just like you always said I should.
We cannot have contact anymore. Do you understand that?
I just want you to know that I'm finally making some real progress.
I don't feel safe around you. Leave me alone, or I'll be forced to take legal action.
I wasn't asking you to treat me again. Just wanted to say thank you for helping me.
I mean,
That was tense.
did you see last night's episode?
I'm not caught up. Have you guys seen last night's episode? So just give us a little bit. Go ahead and spoil it. It's cool.
Because it aired.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
why.
I'll watch it anyway.
Yeah. It ain't over.
Okay.
Oh no. Not by a long shot. You just gotta, I don't know why I'm talking like this in this voice.
Because it's intense. Because the whole show makes you feel like the stakes are always
Honey,
super high.
Let me tell you,
Yes.
last night I watched the episode with a friend, with a small group of friends, and of course I knew what was coming. But I was sitting in the corner of the sofa, like, it's so intense. Sam Esmail is just the best, the most, he's like a mad genius, right? Yeah. Tall, kind of this, he's just this, and he's so nice and so funny and then he writes this stuff, or he directs this stuff, and I can't take it. It's just watch.
Yes.
That's all I'm going to say. Hashtag just watch.
Do you know how it all ends?
Oh, yeah.
You do.
Oh, yeah.
And what was your reaction?
I can't talk about it.
Okay. That's fair.
Oh, yeah.
Can you give us any sort of just like your feelings when you sort of saw how everything would wrap up?
Oh, my gosh. Completely. Wow, man. So we read all of the episodes before we started filming the season around all the cast would be around the writers and such. So we read, everything. So we knew, but I didn't know until those days when we'd be reading, and then I would find out what was going on. And there were more than a few times up until and beyond the episodes that have already aired, where I would turn the page and whether I was talking or not, of course, I'd be following through, and it would just be, what? Yeah, it's unbelievable and unexpected and nothing else like it. That's the thing. I said to Sam, I said, you ruined me. Like, what am I going to do now? I can't, what am I going to do?
Well, I mean, you did ER before this. I feel like you'll find something.
Well, thank you. But I need it to be in a shorter amount of time span
fair.
between. No, the good thing, everything always happens in its time.
What
so
does
that
it feel like, though, to be on a show like this that, I mean, a lot of shows don't get fourth seasons anymore.
Right.
It's so competitive out there.
That's right.
The show is constantly talked about, reviewed, written about.
Right.
People are really connected to the stories.
Yeah.
For an actor, that really empower you to just go all in, because it must be really great to just be on a show that is so well received.
Well, that's the
people
thing.
love.
It's great to be on a show that is so well written. And it's so well received because it is so well written, and you have talent that is unbelievable and extraordinary. Every single one, every single person, right? Everybody's brought their A game, and there's no denying it. And whether you like the story or not isn't even an issue, because the quality is unlike anything else. It has been a dream working with Rami. I mean, Krista, she's the psychiatrist. I mean, a lot of our stuff is just the two of us in her office. What a dream. What a dream to be able to work like that. And, I think it's really fascinating. Of course, we all know Elliot is a hacker, etc. But what's underneath the surface? The isolation. He's clean, but the drug addiction, the disconnect.
That's why that scene was so powerful, because you can just see him
Exactly.
losing this person who was probably the only person he could talk to.
I know.
It's heartbreaking, guys.
But those issues, underlying throughout our society in today's world. So
It's really, really a beautiful show, and I can't wait to see how everything wraps up. In the meantime, let's go to some questions.
Okay.
We do have two from the audience. First one right here.
Hi, Gloria.
hi.
I went to see a performance at Feinstein's 54 Below.
Yeah.
You performed before a friend of mine, Kelsey Warren, on October 25th.
Oh, okay.
And I'm sorry that I didn't know that you were there, because I would have attended both shows.
Oh,
So my question is, congratulations on the book also. But
thank you.
my question is, when are you going to be performing in New York again? New York City, you said Joe's Pub.
Yes.
Will you ever do Feinstein's again?
Yes, I'm sure I will. I love that venue. I've done a few shows there. And October 25th was really special and very unique because I was singing songs for my upcoming new album, and it was just vocals and guitar, which is very rare. And talk about scary. It's like there's no hiding behind, the drum beat or the bassist. It's just the two of us. It was amazing. It was an extraordinary experience, and it went over very, very well. I am planning on taking that show, if you will, just vocals and guitar. Before I have advanced copies of the album, so I can hand them out or sell them, if you will, at venues elsewhere. So I'm looking at hitting LA, and there's a Feinstein's now in LA and DC, and probably a few other venues along the way. And then yes, Joe's Pub here, March 31st of next year. So I hope you'll attend.
I'm looking forward to it.
Great.
And last question.
Hello.
Hi.
I was wondering what you've learned from from playing your character on Mr. Robot that you've taken and applied to your own life.
Oh, that's a good question. What I've learned from Krista. Well, here's the one thing about Krista that, don't get me wrong, I'm glad she has a boundaries issue. She let him get away with he did some stuff, and yet still, she would treat him up until, you can see in that scene that she did set a boundary. But I have to say, that's been one thing that I have learned to do better in my own life, is to kind of set boundaries. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad that she didn't, because otherwise I wouldn't have been on the show that much. So it's kind of a catch-22. But I do think that, one of the things that I've loved about her is that, and it's definitely in the writing, but I think also it's working with Rami, who's very present. Krista is, she's fully there, and she's right there with him. And there's something about that, not just in a therapist's office or what have you, but in life, that I'm trying to take into my own life, that I do practice more and more every day. you know, but it's a discipline for me, especially because of my stupid phone. I got to put that thing down and do one thing at a time. If I'm making breakfast, I'm going to make breakfast and eat breakfast. I'm not going to check my email while I'm doing that. I'm going to do one thing at a time and be fully present and just do the next thing. So that's one thing that I do love about Krista. One thing that I wish that I could have taken was that beautiful green silk sofa, but that wasn't possible. Thanks.
Did you get to take anything?
No. Well, I did take a couple of great dresses.
There you go.
Not this one, but there are a couple of others.
That's amazing. I'm like, whenever I see these shows and movies, I'm
I know.
like, you gotta take something.
Seriously.
I know they don't let you, but
I know. Sometimes you can work
what
it
they
out.
don't know doesn't hurt them. Well, we've covered so much. You have so many amazing things going on for you. So happy for you. And just, again, thank you for putting your heart and soul into this book. I know that it's not always easy to kind of bare your soul in that way, but like I mentioned, I just think it's important to talk openly about the journey of grief more and more. I mean, it's just something that everybody has to experience, so why go through it alone, right?
Indeed. Why
Yeah.
go through it alone?
So, My Brother's Keeper is available on November 19th, wherever books are sold. And put your hands together for Gloria Reuben.
Thank you. Thank you.